The oversight chamber wasn't really built for this kind of drama. It was meant for the usual hearings, with slow questions and rehearsed outrage, but now it felt like a courtroom waiting for a verdict. The C-SPAN cameras were blinking red, and reporters were leaning in, not even taking note. Trump was back in Congress, not to testify but to defend himself. When the double doors creaked open, Donald J. Trump walked in like he still owned the place, dressed in a blue suit and sharp tie, his chin tilted with a sneer that came from years of wielding power. He was followed by two expensive lawyers in dark suits, one holding a leather folder and the other sporting a carefully constructed expression. Trump didn't sit down right away, scanning the room like a predator who knew the territory. His eyes flicked over lawmakers and staffers before landing briefly on Jasmine Crockett. She didn't flinch, her gaze steady and unyielding. Chairwoman Dotto cleared her throat. "We're now starting this special hearing under constitutional privilege. Congresswoman Crockett, you've asked to introduce a civilian witness." Jasmine stood up slowly, calm and composed. "Yes, Madam Chair, a civilian who's been directly connected to this lawsuit and has been denied the chance to speak for 25 years. Trump scoffed quietly, muttering, "Here comes the circus." Jasmine ignored him and nodded toward the chamber doors, which opened to reveal Tiana Meredith, clad in a black blazer and white blouse, without any jewelry or notes, just carrying the truth. The room fell into a shocked silence, then erupted into hushed whispers, camera shutters clicking and jaws dropping. Staffers stood frozen, some reaching for their phones. A C-SPAN producer whispered, "Jesus Christ, that's her." Trump's lips curled in disdain. "That's not her," he murmured. "That's not anyone." But Jasmine's voice cut through the noise like a knife. "She's your legacy, sir." The words hit hard like a verdict. Tiana walked forward, head held high and steps steady, unaffected by the cameras or Trump's whispering lawyers. She took her seat at the witness stand, hands on the desk, staring at the committee. Trump leaned toward his lawyer. "Object. This is a stunt." But Jasmine was ready. "Madam Chair, all documents confirming this witness's identity have been submitted under seal, including notarized DNA confirmation. Let the record show that Mr. Trump is objecting not to the evidence, but to her presence." Chairwoman Dotto nodded. "Proceed." Tiana took a deep breath, collecting herself. Jasmine shot her a look, not to instruct or pressure, just to give her the green light. Trump's jaw clenched, his composure slipping. He had spent millions trying to bury the past, and now it was right there in the room, carrying her own name. What if your silence ends up giving a voice to what could ultimately destroy you? The chamber lights seemed to flicker brighter, as if they were anticipating a spark. Jasmine didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. She opened the red folder with care, all eyes locked on her movements. The pages were steady. They bore the truth. She read slowly, each word intentional. Paternity analysis, sample A against sample B, probability of paternity, 99.94%. A soft murmur rustled through the benches like leaves stirred by the wind. Tiana remained still. Trump leaned back, his jaw tense. His attorney scribbled away. Jasmine flipped to the next page. Wire transfer log, dated March 14, 2018. Total, $4.2 million from TML Strategic Holdings LLC, a known shell company tied to the Trump Organization, to Maria Meredith, Tiana's mother. Memo line, educational support. Trump drummed his fingers on the table, then pounded harder. Irrelevant, he muttered. Jasmine kept going, raising a scanned PDF with bold black letters and a signature in blue ink. This is the non-disclosure agreement signed by Maria Meredith, which binds her to silence under penalty of forfeiture. And here, she pointed to the last line, magnifying it on the projector, are the crucial initials, MT Melania Trump. The room went still. Cameras paused, operators were left speechless. A reporter whispered, "No way." Trump slammed his palm on the table, breaking the silence with a sharp crack. "I don't know that woman," he snapped. Chairwoman Dotto looked up. "Mr. Trump, you are not recognized." "I don't know her," he yelled, pointing at Tiana, his hand shaking. "This is a setup. Deep state nonsense." Jasmine stood firm, holding the folder with both hands, her voice low and dangerous. "Then tell me why your wife acknowledged the transaction, why her initials are next to the agreement, why the money came from your shell company, and why the DNA doesn't lie, even if you do." Trump opened his mouth, but no words came out. Tiana didn't say anything. Her presence spoke volumes against his denial. The atmosphere shifted, not in a physical way, but on a moral level. Even his defenders looked worn out, quiet, as if something deep and ancient had cracked. Jasmine closed the folder with a definitive click. "Let the record reflect that every word, dollar, and drop of blood in this folder points to one undeniable truth." Trump stared, furious and cornered, sweat beading on his brow. When power panics, what truths come roaring out? The quiet that followed when Jasmine closed the folder wasn't relief. It felt like something had broken. It wasn't a sound, but a shift in certainty. Some Republicans stood up and walked out, their shoes clicking like verdicts retreating. Others huddled in whispers, hands over their mouths, clinging to denial as if it could still offer protection. Jamie Raskin leaned forward, his tone sharper than the rules allowed. Madam Chair, given the evidence, sealed financial records and confirmation of paternity, we need the DOJ here right away. No one interrupted. No one dared to. The absence of the DOJ felt heavier with each passing moment. Katie Porter pulled out a legal pad, outlining a timeline. Red for wire transfers, blue for filings, and black for Melania's signature. As she circled the date of the hush payment and matched it with Melania's Palm Beach flight log, she murmured, "He flew on the federal plane the day after the deal closed." There were no laughs. It wasn't just a scandal anymore. It felt like history was crumbling. Tiana sat confidently in the witness chair, her shoulders straight and breathing steady. No tears, no pleas. She waited until the room recognized her presence. When Chairwoman Dotto gave her the chance to speak, Tiana delivered her words from memory. "I'm not here for revenge," she said, her voice calm, quiet, and undeniable. "I'm here because I've had to listen to this man lie about who he is while I couldn't even say my own name in public." She looked directly at Trump, not with anger or fear, but with clarity. "He didn't just leave me behind. He sued the only woman who defended me." Her voice quivered on that last sentence, raw truth bursting forth. The chamber went still. That statement lingered like a sentence carved in stone. Trump and his lawyers stayed motionless. Jasmine observed, feeling a sense of pride, unshaken. A witness doesn't need to yell to shake a system. Standing in it is enough. Outside, the protesters fell silent. Phones buzzed as one quote rippled through headlines. "He sued the only woman who stood up for me." No rebuttal, no spin, just truth resonating off the marble floors, louder than power. How can you argue with someone whose only weapon is the truth? The room still felt heavy from Tiana's words and the silence that followed. Just when everyone thought they had braced for the worst, Jasmine stood her ground. "Madam Chair, I'd like to call a second civilian witness, a former employee of the First Lady's office," she stated. Her words sent ripples through the chamber like a wave of heat. Trump straightened up, while his attorney leaned in, whispering urgently. Jasmine gestured toward the gallery doors, and in walked Marta Raldi, tall and composed, well known in Washington for dressing first ladies for state dinners and handling their post-scandal appearances. This was no mere fashion moment. It felt like a revelation. Marta took the oath with little fanfare, her breath steady. Jasmine handed her a photo meant to stay off camera. Marta nodded once, placing it delicately on the table. "I was with the First Lady in May 2020, she started, her voice sharp and trained to convey only what was needed. "We were looking at accessories for an event she never made it to. She was distracted, staring at a jewelry box, wouldn't talk or even sit down. Jasmine encouraged her. "What was in the box?" Marta blinked. "A child's bracelet. Gold, tiny, custom engraved." "And what did the engraving say?" There was a pause before Marta responded softly, "For the girl you'll never know." "Forgive us." Gasps rippled through the room like a slow burn. Trump's face lost its color as he scanned for a way out. Jasmine pressed on, asking, "Did the First Lady explain what the message meant?" "She didn't need to," Marta replied. She held it and cried. "No makeup, no mirrors, just tears." She whispered, "It's done. I didn't press for details, but I understood." Jasmine displayed the NDA, pointing out Melania's initials, MT. These were hers. Marta nodded. Melania signed without hesitation, but she was crying. That bracelet was her way of saying sorry. She turned to address the room. She knew. The whole time, Trump shot forward. "Lies. Fiction." Marta stood her ground. "Then why do I still have the box?" She placed a velvet pouch next to the microphone, revealing a bracelet that shimmered in the light, inscribed with Tiana's name and the word daughter. If she agreed to silence, did that mean it was really permission? Jasmine didn't skip a beat. She pulled out a glossy photo from a folder labeled Exhibit D. She approached the projector, revealing the image like a discovered treasure. The picture lit up the wall. Trump at Mar-a-Lagos Marble Bar, tie loosened, drink in hand, beside a 10-year-old girl. Curly hair, wide eyes, standing tall as if caught between pride and confusion. His arm rested lightly on her back, a gesture that was both subtle and telling. Whispers exploded in the room. An aide dropped his pen, and Chairwoman Dotto adjusted her glasses twice, perhaps hoping that clarity would somehow erase what they were seeing. Trump jolted at the sight. That's fake. Photoshop. Jasmine flipped the photo around, reading the handwritten message on the back. To my friend's daughter, stay strong. DJT. The silence became palpable, almost like a verdict. This photo, taken on January 3, 2011, is verified by resort guest logs, timestamp metadata, and security footage from Mar-a-Lago, provided by a whistleblower. Trump leaned forward with palms on the table. I've taken thousands of pictures. That could be anyone. But his attorney remained seated. They understood the truth wasn't just in the photo, it also lay in the documents. Guest logs with Maria Meredith's name, catering invoices for 2 child meals, and a staff memo for Trump's private table. Tiana didn't speak. She didn't need to. Jasmine continued. The man who claims he didn't know this child signed her photo and referred to her as a friend's daughter, though he never named her. When even the walls seemed to remember, how long can lies hold up? The chamber felt frozen, stuck in time. The image on the screen hung there like a raw, unhealed wound. Trump slouched, silent, deeper in thought than anyone had ever seen. Tiana's quiet wasn't out of fear. It was the weight of finally saying what needed to be said. Jasmine rose without a script, her voice steady and cold, like a blade drawn in a sacred space. This hearing was never just about a child. It's about power. Power that rewrites history in gold ink, hiding the truth behind marble walls, crafting empires to erase anyone who threatens that illusion of control. Her words landed with the finality of a gavel, not shouting but striking a chord. They labeled this defamation because I wouldn't stay silent, because I believed that one girl's name is worth more than one man's legacy, because I dared to say, you can't just sue someone into oblivion. Trump's lawyer shifted uncomfortably but stayed silent. No one spoke. Jasmine moved toward the witness table, locking eyes with Trump. Not with anger, but with the quiet strength of someone who had finally set down a heavy burden. You paid to make her vanish. You signed documents to erase her name. You leveraged your wife's silence, your wealth, your power to make sure no one asked, who is this child? She turned to the audience. Lawmakers, staff, cameras, a nation tuning in. Well, I asked. The sharp click, she closed Exhibit D, sounding louder than any shout. If that makes me the villain in your lawsuit, let America be the jury. The impact wasn't out of rage. It was a choice made for those watching, for every woman hushed, every girl overlooked. You call this character assassination, she declared. I call it resurrection. Trump had no words. What could he say in response to a truth that didn't seek approval? The chamber listened, while outside the world began to shift. Who really defames a name? The one who hides it or the one who dares to speak it? The counter-move from Trump's camp was quick and ruthless, though oddly bloodless. At 6:14 a.m., before D.C. began to wake, his legal team submitted a 96-page emergency injunction demanding to suppress the hearing footage, remove public records, and erase Jasmine's exhibits from congressional archives, all under the guise of protecting national dignity. It felt like a petulant outburst dressed up in legalese. By sunrise, the headlines were ablaze. Trump moves to erase paternity scandal, seeks to silence testimony. By noon, things got uglier. MAGA forums erupted with hashtags like #FakeDaughter, #DeepStateSeed, #Wokehoke. Anonymous users doxed Tiana's address. A photo of her mother's gravestone surfaced online, captioned, "One lie dies, another lives." In just 6 hours, Tiana received 300 threats, some calling her gold-digging trash, others vowing to do what Trump should have done. One message simply read, "You should have stayed invisible, girl." But this story wasn't like most. At 3 p.m., beneath a pale autumn sun, Jasmine stepped onto the Capitol steps, dressed in a navy blazer, her expression steely, flanked by Ayanna Pressley, Jamie Raskin, civil rights leaders, and Tiana, calm, collected, unshaken. Gloria Allred held the NDA and DNA test. No teleprompters, just 2 women with nothing left to lose and everything to say. Jasmine faced the cameras and declared, "This morning, the former president filed a motion, not to clear his name, but to bury hers. Not to deny the evidence, but to erase the person it belongs to." The reporters buzzed but held off on interrupting. "Let me make myself clear," she continued. "We're not scared of paper bullet. We've taken harder hits from silence than we have from subpoenas." Tiana stepped forward, her voice soft yet cutting. "He tried to ensure I wouldn't have a name, paid lawyers to erase me from existence. And now he wants to sue the only person who dared to say my name out loud." She paused, breathing steady. If existing comes with this price, I'll happily pay it again. A reporter shouted, "Are you scared for your safety?" Jasmine interjected, "Afraid of what? Cowards hiding behind money and legal maneuvers? Men who've lied under oath and tremble at the thought of a woman reading a caption." She stepped forward. If Trump wants to fight in court, he better make sure there's room for truth. For once, he won't be the one writing the script. Cameras flashed like lightning, the crowd shifting, not into chaos but into a wave of momentum. When the powerful misuse silence, what happens when it finally backfires? The oversight chamber had seen its fair share of documents, but nothing like what Jasmine was holding. A single cream-colored page issued by the state, the sort you might find buried in a hospital drawer. This document could change everything. She rose, her voice gaining weight like an approaching storm. Before we wrap up, I have one last item for the committee. Filed last month and given the green light by Georgia's Department of Health, notarized under penalty of perjury. Holding the document up for the cameras, she stated, Tiana Meredith's amended birth certificate, with the paternal field updated after DNA confirmation and legal acknowledgement of paternity. Reading the name felt like striking a hammer. Donald John Trump. The entire chamber gasped in unison, the air sucked out, then it fell like shattered glass. Trump leaned forward, his eyes racing, searching for a way out. His lawyer reached to say something but held back. It wasn't testimony. It was a matter of official record. Tiana sat in the gallery, pale and breathless, as if she might crumble. And then she whispered, just barely audible to the mic, "I exist now." Those 3 words eclipsed any amount of money spent to keep her hidden. Jasmine placed the certificate on the record-keeper's desk like a verdict. This isn't about accusations, conjecture, or theatrics. This is legal truth. Documented, stamped, and irreversible. Trump clutched the table, his knuckles turning white. "Forgery," he yelled. "The state's been infiltrated. Deep fake." No one echoed his claims. The Republicans stared, wide-eyed and hollow, as the chaos settled. Chairwoman Dotto, visibly taken aback, announced, "Let the record show this document is verified under oath and is admissible." Jasmine turned to Tiana saying, "You were never invisible. Now the system has to see you." Tiana nodded, fighting back tears. Not here, not in front of him. Her name was no longer a quiet whisper, but officially entered as a daughter. Trump slumped down, silent. Not scheming, but defeated. When identity is legally acknowledged, does it become undeniable? The chamber hadn't cleared out when the DOJ handed over a formal notice, stamped in blue. A preliminary investigation into potential perjury and campaign finance violations linked to Donald J. Trump. Reporters flooded the hallway. The DOJ press secretary confirmed live, "We're examining sworn statements and sealed financial records. If charges are necessary, we'll proceed without hesitation." No spin, no waiting around. Gloria Allred appeared, her expression unreadable. "He didn't just deny paternity. He used campaign funds to do it. That's not just morally wrong, it's illegal." Jasmine walked out next, no entourage in sight, just her and a nation that was holding its breath. "He didn't sue me because I lied," she stated, her voice edged with fatigue. "He sued because I spoke a truth too powerful for him to manage." Tiana stood in the background, no longer hidden. A reporter asked if she regretted coming forward. Jasmine replied, "She didn't come to ruin anyone. She came to exist." The committee announced plans to send evidence to the FEC and DOJ, something rare. Katie Porter's timeline, labeled election tampering 2018 to 2020, remained sealed. Raskin signed the motion without a second thought. Trump's team issued a vague statement claiming persecution, but none of them denied the legitimacy of the birth certificate, the bracelet, or the photo, facts that were now out in the open, permanent. Jasmine paused on the Capitol step. They thought they could use the law as a weapon, but the law belongs to the people they tried to silence. Applause erupted on the street. Truth didn't just plead for justice, it demanded it. Can the law really serve the people when they bring it to court? It only took a few minutes for Jasmine and Tiana's names to start trending online. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag I am Tiana, hashtag truth on record, hashtag erase me no more. For 72 hours, the entire country was watching. Women began sharing their birth certificates, showing missing fathers' names, and court documents marked with denied or sealed. A former campaign staffer from 2008 spoke out about her NDA. A woman from Houston went live, reading a letter addressed to a man who never acknowledged her. "I watched Tiana and felt seen," she said, her voice trembling. Town halls in cities like Detroit, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Oakland were packed. Grandmothers and granddaughters shared stories of neglect, bribery, and silence. In Montgomery, one woman spoke the words on Melania's bracelet, "Forgive us." The crowd erupted in applause. Over in Arizona, a civics teacher made a powerful statement. "This is history, not a scandal, but a refusal to vanish." The phrase, "I am Tiana," became a rallying cry for visibility and truth, signaling that silence was no longer an option. The White House put out a cautious statement asserting that every American has the right to know who they are. Meanwhile, Trump's team fell silent. Not a single tweet or outburst, just a noticeable absence. Tiana's website crashed twice from the overwhelming traffic, and her GoFundMe for legal fees soared to $2 million in just 2 days. Not out of pity, but from a shared purpose. She reflected back what the country was avoiding. What happens when a nation's hidden truths come to light at the family dinner table? 4 days later, at 8 p.m., Trump released a pre-recorded video. No press, just a silk flag behind him and a rehearsed tone. "This is politically motivated," he started, taking a pause as if he was doing the country a favor. "Fabricated by Democrats, weaponized by radicals. My real children stand by me." The last words of the clip stung. My real children. He didn't even mention Tiana's name, not even to deny her. Viewed 19 million times, his supporters saw it as a moment of focus. Others saw it as an ego-driven wall being built. Tiana watched from her phone, remaining dry-eyed. Hours later, she stood in front of cameras on the Capitol steps. No podium, no notes, just her presence, more powerful than any storm. "I saw the video," she asserted, her voice filled with determination. "That's all right. I'm not looking to be behind him. I'm standing for those in front of him, for daughters who were never named, sons told to be quiet, women who gave up their lives for silence." She paused for effect. "I'm not here to be claimed. I'm here to be counted." Jasmine watched not as a politician but as a witness. "I don't need him to say my name," Tiana stated, her gaze fixed on the camera. "The world already has." The video went viral, not because of politics but because it was deeply personal. Is the name you're born with more powerful than the truth you stand for? 9 days after the hearing, things were still shifting. Not in Congress, but in gymnasiums, barbershops, living rooms, and schoolyards where the story became personal and alive. Jasmine headed to Detroit, no cameras tagging along, just the familiar linoleum floors and posters saying "You matter, speak up, I am Tiana." The principal told her they had rewritten the civics curriculum because the students had pushed for it. In the auditorium, 200 students sat quietly, notebooks in hand, a sense of defiance in the air. An 11-year-old girl rushed up and hugged Jasmine. "Thank you for fighting for the girl he didn't want." Jasmine knelt down to meet her gaze. "I wasn't fighting for her. I was fighting with her." Students lined up for handshakes and made eye contact. One boy whispered, "My dad left when I was 2. Another added, "My mom cried when you spoke." Jasmine listened, giving them room to share. A bulletin board displayed trial screenshots. Tiana's face, her photo, the bracelet, next to a note that read, "Truth doesn't need permission." Another note, written in shaky blue ink, said, "I voted for him twice. But she's telling the truth, and that matters more." Walter D., Vietnam vet, 78, from Ohio. When Jasmine read that note, she paused, holding on to hope. A reporter asked, "What now?" She replied while still moving, "We make sure the next girl never fights alone." She disappeared into the crowd. Not a headline, but a woman who remembered those who had been overlooked. If the system won't protect them, who will? A year later, the air in the Capitol felt lighter and sharper, almost like a scar that had learned to speak. In the rotunda, a quiet ceremony was happening. No fanfare, just a plaque, a podium, and people who understood what it meant to be forgotten. Tiana Meredith stood at the center, dressed in a navy gown with a white sash, receiving, not just testifying. The dean from Howard University announced, "We're awarding the first Meredith Clause Fund for Forgotten Daughters, a scholarship for students whose identities were hidden, silenced, or buried." Tiana didn't shed a tear. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I exist. I'm written in." Meanwhile, a headline blared, "House Ethics Committee opens investigation into Trump hush payments, perjury." Subpoenas went out. No one was calling him unshakable anymore. In Texas, Jasmine declared her Senate run. "We've had enough of leaders who erase. It's time for those who remember." Donors dubbed her Congress's unexpected backbone. Voters saw her as the voice they had been waiting for. She didn't hesitate, fully aware of the price she'd pay and the silence that had built her platform. That week, Tiana's law made it through committee, making NDAs unenforceable in paternity cases involving public officials. Tiana went to her mother's grave, leaving a rose and the scholarship letter, whispering, "They know now, and they can't unknow me." Her name, once erased, was now etched in marble, legislation, and memory. What happens when a voice becomes law? The courthouse was eerily quiet, like a room weighed down by too many memories. 2 floors below street level, the Federal Archive sat behind a heavy iron door, enveloped in silence. Sealed off, forgotten. Jasmine found herself standing alone in front of a drawer labeled Meredith vs. Trump, GIC 22014, sealed tight. Carefully, she opened it. Inside were fragments of a narrative that had become too powerful to ignore. The NDA, wire transfers, a DNA report, Melania's initials, a photo, a bracelet, pieces of a story that had turned into something the country couldn't just forget. Jasmine gazed at the contents, took a deep breath, and pulled out a handwritten note from her pocket. The ink was sharp, deliberate. You almost erased her, but she made history instead. Placing the note atop the file, she pressed it down, sealing a truth that no judge could dismiss. The room might not have cheered, but the atmosphere changed, like closing a loop. The girl once hidden was now documented in the very institution that tried to wipe her out. With a firm click, she shut the drawer, its sound echoing like a bell marking the end of a long-held falsehood. Jasmine turned and walked away, her coat fluttering behind her, not glancing back. Tiana's name was no longer a secret. It had become a file, a law, a reminder. Some truths simply can't be silenced. Some names refuse to fade into the background. Some stories linger on, in sealed courtrooms, hushed press conferences, and in the footnotes where daughters were meant to disappear. Publicly, Tiana wasn't supposed to exist, but truth doesn't fade away. It simply waits. Jasmine didn't crash through barriers. She moved forward with evidence and determination. She didn't need drama, only time, a name, and the resolve to say, not this time. This wasn't just about a birth certificate or a bracelet. It was about power trying to mask shame and suppress what couldn't be controlled. When the photo came out, the DNA took on a new role as testimony, revealing a deep scar that America had ignored. Melania's signature, the payments, the stylist's admission all pointed to a singular truth. Silence had been used as a weapon, and Jasmine dismantled it with her patience and refusal to walk away. She didn't bring down a man, she breathed life back into a girl, creating a beacon for every daughter who was told to disappear, every mother who felt forced to sign for her own survival. Tiana never aimed to be a symbol, but when she found herself in the spotlight drenched in shame, she stood up, her presence a call for accountability. Not concealed, not denied, and certainly not alone. That's what scared them. Not the documents or the hearings, but her desire for acknowledgement, not revenge. The narrative doesn't finish in the courtroom. It continues with you, not merely as an onlooker but as a witness. Some names must be earned. What about you? If you had the chance to give a voice to the invisible, would you take it? Write down their names, share their stories, and remind the world. If this resonates with you, don't let it fade away. Like, share, subscribe to Mr. Truth Stories, where those who have been erased find their voice. Hit the notification bell. The next name might be one they tried to bury. What moment hit you the hardest? Comment, because silence has built this system, and your voice has the power to tear it down. This dramatized tale, inspired by real-life struggles, has been fictionalized for commentary and education, not to defame or mislead, but to spark reflection and civic awareness. Truth isn't finished, it's waiting to be heard.